All right, let's call this meeting to order. It's 9 o'clock. Thanks everyone for coming. I appreciate it. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tim, if you can start us off, I appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, good morning, everyone. We've got everybody out there. But before we do the moment of silent reflection, JJ, you got something?
Sure. So I think it's timely. And I'd just like to take a moment and acknowledge that rural Nevada and Nevada agriculture's had a pretty rough week and a half. And not being fully inclusive, obviously, of those that we've lost, but there are 4 that I would like to mention, starting with the Halstead Hutchison family in Lund, with the loss of Brody, Officer Frank Cohn from Ely, with his loss at Terminal Lake about a week ago. The loss of Matt Gibbs 2 days ago from Eureka, good friend, family from Wells. And then yesterday afternoon, we lost Trenton Montero, for the Montero family from Winnemucca. So as Woody calls for a moment of reflection, I ask you to keep those families in your thoughts and prayers.
All right, let's do a time moment of silence or reflection. Thank you, everyone. Again, item number 1, we're going to go to C. Sierra, can you give us some virtual attendee reminders, kind of some housekeeping, what we need to do?
Testing volume here in the Sparks office a little bit. Let me.
You get Sierra?
Difficulties, here we go.
Thank you, sorry.
Nope, you're good, thank you. We are recording our meeting today. All participants have been muted upon entry. During the presentation, please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. If you would like to speak, have a comment, or have a question, please raise your hand. You can do so by hovering over the reactions button at the bottom, or by clicking on the participants, finding your name, and raising your hand there. If you are joining us today by phone, which I don't think I saw anyone, but if you are, please press *9 to raise your hand. If you have a question or comment, press *6 to unmute yourself. And then after you are done speaking, go ahead and press *9 to mute yourself again.
Perfect, thank you. All right, next item, we're going to do roll call. We're going to start remotely. I think that'll probably be a little bit easier. We'll go to board members first, please, and then we'll start down in Vegas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave Kuhn, Dairy Industry, Clark County.
Perfect, thank you. And then we'll go to Washoe. You have any board members there? Okay, perfect. And then remotely, board members, go ahead. Mr.
Sorry, I think we can't hear you quite that well in Sparks. You might have to speak up for us a little bit. But Heather, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, good morning. My name is Heather Lackey. I'm here representing pest control for Douglas County.
Perfect. Thanks, Heather. Appreciate it. Now I can see it. Any other board members in Washoe? All right, go ahead.
Hello. Hi, this is Paul No in Las Vegas. If you can hear me, I'm sorry my camera's not working, but I am joining the meeting. I am here.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Mr. Shank?
Yes, Greg Shank, Churchill County representing veterinarians.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that covers everybody virtually. Am I missing anything?
This is Charlie Frey.
Oh, there it is.
I'm listed as Debbie, my wife. I'm sorry. But, I couldn't get in on my computer, so I'm using hers. So I'm really Debbie today. Can you see me?
No, Debbie, we
No,
can't.
we can't. Debbie.
Okay, but it's me. Sorry about that. I was going to try to be in at the meeting in Sparks, but I'm not able to make it.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Frey. I appreciate it. All right,
Thank
we're
you.
good. Elko, that should cover everybody. Elko, we'll start from left, right. Brooke?
Brooke Neubauer from Las Vegas, representing the supplemental group. Valerie Drake, representing the petroleum industry, Humboldt County.
Frederick Peterson, semi-range beef production, Eastern Nevada.
Jim Snyder, Lyon County Row Crops.
Pete Paris, Elko County, sheep representative. What do you, other things? Why don't you do that? That's all right. Woody Worthington, General Ag for Douglas County, also chair. That's it. All right, perfect. That takes care of the board. You got all the roll calls here. Good, thank you. All right, JJ, it's your call. We'll start in staff for NDA in Washoe.
Staff and Sparks.
Coordinator?
Brittany Malley, Deputy Administrator, Food Nutrition.
Ashley Jepson, Plant Administrator.
Dylan Davidson, Trade Officer.
Perfect. And then what do we have in Las Vegas?
Patricia Hoppy, Administrator, Division of Food and Nutrition.
Perfect. Any other remote people from NDA? No.
Ian Knight, Agricultural Police Officer.
Thank you, Ian. Go ahead, Dave. We'll start down there.
Phil Strajewski, Administrator, Measurement Standards.
Peter Winston, State Veterinarian.
Amara Dino, Admin Services Administrator.
Chance Spinbridge, Animal Division Administrator.
Doug Ferris, Deputy Director.
Oh, Holly Rincon, Executive Assistant.
Richard Young, Office of the Attorney General.
JJ Goyachia, Director.
All right, I think we took care of roll call. That was uneventful. That actually worked out pretty good. We'll go with public comment. Sierra, I think we do have one public comment that was given to us. Can you read that one?
I got it.
Holly has it. She can read it.
Okay, perfect.
It's from Wendy Groman from Wild Horses Connection, and her comment was, "We have to save these beautiful animals."
Thank you.
You know, use your mom voice.
Wendy Groman from Wild Horses Connection. Her comment was, "We have to save these beautiful animals."
Is there any public comment virtually? Any public comment here in Elko? Hearing none, we're gonna go ahead and close it. We'll move to agenda item number 3. Board, please take a look at and we'll have discussion if we want a possible action on approval of June 9, 2023 minutes, please. And they're in your packets.
Move to approve the minutes.
There's a first on the floor for approval for minutes for June 9, 2023. Is there a second? Second. All right, thank you. Commissioner and Pete Ferris, the first and seconds on that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. It's so moved. We approve the minutes for June 9, 2023. Agenda item number 4. It's kind of a housekeeping board management. We're gonna first one is a discussion of prescribing rules for the management of the government of the Board of Agriculture. So that's basically what I'm coming up with. If Woody's not here, who's going to run the board? Who's going to be able to handle that? And we, under our management, we need to take a look at that. So let's open it up for discussion, board. What's your take on that to make sure we have that covered?
And Richard, would you like to just give us why we don't have a vice chair, per statute?
Sure.
I think that would help a little bit.
Yeah, so the legislature is pretty explicit with state agencies in terms of requiring certain positions and boards. And under NRS 561.085, this Board of Agriculture, they require a chair and a secretary and nothing more. So I would advise against voting for a co-chair, because sometimes that can complicate things if the co-chair runs and somebody's upset with what happened at that meeting and it's not in the statute. But that does not prevent the board from discussing who should run the meeting in the event that the chair isn't there. It's just there. Can you hear me okay down there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you're asking, I'm not sure why, but we did have a vote, or something was on the agenda a couple of months back with regard to adopting bylaws, and I had suggested against it because the draft had some conflicting things with the statute. And so I'll speak up if during the course of what you guys are saying goes against anything in the statutes. Okay. But if what you decide to do is in line with the law.
Mr. Chairman, I couldn't hear any of that explanation. I know that I served on a board for the Board of Veterinary Examiners, and we had a co-chair, worked really well. Now, could you explain again why you say that we shouldn't have one that's actually chosen for that purpose?
Yeah, I advise against it because the legislature will usually put in the statute if certain positions are required in a board. And in NRS 561, there's no such thing as there's no co-chair position. And my advice is to protect the decisions of the board. And I wouldn't want it to be in the case where the chair isn't here, the co-chair is running the meeting, somebody's upset with something that happened during the meeting, and then they say, oh, well, the co-chair ran that meeting. It shouldn't have been done that way. The statute doesn't allow for it. And we could be in court just over that small thing. So my advice is that you can still talk about, actually you're required to talk about how you should run the meetings if the chair isn't there. But I advise against the adoption of bylaws and the election of a co-chair position because it's not in the statute.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Board, have any comments or discussion in regards to that? Yes. No.
So it would be acceptable for just an ad hoc appointment of of someone if
Yeah.
the chair is not going to be present.
Absolutely. So under 561-105, you're supposed to prescribe rules for the management and government of the board. And so that falls square within that rule subsection 2. So you absolutely should talk about that.
We can decide, but it's not written down.
Yeah, per se, yeah, definitely rules and
You can write it out and you can talk about it, you can prescribe it and you can adopt those rules, but let's just keep it.
Yeah.
Let's call it rules.
Right.
Let's just call it strictly from the statute, rules for the management.
It's a handshake.
Right.
pretty much. And it's just a matter of a verbal, and then, like I said, if I'm not available, or
Right.
whatever, and we just,
You're sick or something.
yeah, 100%. It just gives that flexibility of the
Sounds-
show must go on,
Yes,
right?
sounds like a good idea.
So,
Absolutely.
so I mean, it's definitely an action item. So the direction would be either create a rule, right? Establishing someone or, someone to take the lead on it and run the board. You want to make the motion? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think Jim Snyder is one of the oldest members here.
Okay.
And that's,
We say has seniority.
Well, I didn't mean age. I think he's younger than I am. So the language would be, right, so we have a motion on the floor, right, for Jim Snyder in our rules, right?
yeah, and I could suggest, you could make the rule that it's the most senior member that's present that day, so that gives you more options too. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be wiser though, rather than make that appointment on the day that, maybe before a meeting that Woody could just choose someone that he feels comfortable with for that meeting. Maybe he feels like he's going to be sick or whatever, but to call on the day of the meeting might be kind of tough. It'd be nice to have a little forewarning if that's possible.
Absolutely. So that's for the board to discuss and make the decision. And I'm not trying to push you one way or the other.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
I'm good either way.
Either way, so I think if we earmark specifically like Jim Snyder, is available and create that rule, I think that's a good direction. And then I guess the backup to the backup would be the next senior member to be available to do that, just so we can get it out on table, right? And just to support, because we're engaged, we're a good board that is there, and we, like I said, the show must go on. So, so we had a motion to incorporate a rule, right, of for Jim Snyder in my place to run the meeting. Is that a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. So we got a first and a second. Thank you. Appreciate it, Jim. That he'll be there to facilitate my absence during the board. So we'll make that a rule. All in all, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. It's so moved. Thanks, I appreciate it. All right, another housekeeping item, board management. This came up in spirit of what the executive order. It's board management number B. It's virtual meeting option for light executive order 2023-002. Governor Lombardo put it out. It's section 2. It basically just states, I'll go ahead and read it for everyone. This is is it 2? Okay. The department shall immediately begin working with all state agencies to develop a plan to ensure that the state workers return to pre-pandemic, normal and customary office conditions by July 1st, 2023. The department shall also work with state agencies to ensure that the sufficient office space is available. So, in other words, it's time to get back to work, right? And I think in spirit of that, as a board, we got to do our due diligence, and I appreciate everybody here in Elko, and other people in Las Vegas and also in Sparks too as well. I think that is imperative and important, especially our industry, that we be there in person. So I think we need to definitely have some discussion. And I understand there's personal stuff that does come up, but that era of Zoom meetings, I think we definitely need to put that to impasse and be here and be readily available for people that we represent in our industry. So I thought it was important to bring that up in our agenda. So let's definitely talk about it as a chair and see what we can come up with on that. Go ahead, Jim. What do you think?
Yeah, I would, I think we should show up for meetings as frequently and diligently as we can.
Absolutely.
It's good to have the option of Zoom when it's necessary, but it should be a normal operation.
Absolutely. Any comments out there virtually?
So that would be even if you're at an office like here, you have to come all the way here, right?
No.
No.
Well, so I'm saying basically the Department of Ag has locations that we can come to, right? It's just kind of that representation getting there.
So be at one of the agriculture.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, there's personal stuff that does come up.
Oh, yeah,
but we just, in the spirit of the governor's executive order, I think it's imperative that we got, get out there as you guys know in our industry. It's important FaceTime for sure. So any other discussion on it?
Woody, it's Leanne. Do I have to wait for public comment to comment on the Zoom availability? I do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Just, we'll have public comment at the end. Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other board members have any comments or discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just think it was interesting that last week, Director Robb from administration actually sent Deputy Director Ferris and I an article from Yahoo News that Zoom and the White House both ordered their office for employees back to work. If Zoom orders you back to the office, it's probably time to go back to the office, and I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. Yeah, they need a break. I bet they've been fixing it quite a bit. So any other comments or? Yes.
The Zoom meeting will still be available for public listening.
Absolutely.
But this only regarding the board members.
Yeah. So Zoom meeting will be still out there for availability for public, because I know there's rural and remote locations, but this is in specific to the board members. We have 13, 12 total right now, but I think it's imperative, like I said, in the spirit of the executive order and supporting industry for sure.
Is 1312 a Marine number, sir?
We'll hit 13 total, and then we have 12 right now. Okay. So thank you. I appreciate just your guys' comments and the people that are here today. And I understand we have family, right? We have life. But as representatives of board members, it is imperative that we're there to support our industry. And I think that is really awesome that what you guys are doing in here. So any other discussion on that? I know it says there isn't a possible action, but I think it's to the point we had a discussion in any other direction. So we'll go ahead and go on to agenda item number 4, Charlie, board member updates and representative industry. So we'll go virtual. Mr. Shank, what do you got out there?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. Just some information about a Senate bill that was passed that has a great impact on the veterinary profession here in Nevada. It's Senate Bill 342. It was actually sponsored by 5 Republican senators. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Pete Gogachia, Robin Titus, Heidi Gansert, Cory Buck, and Jeff Stone. And the co-sponsors, there are 8 of those, 5 of them were Democrats. So we had bipartisan favor with this bill. But what it is they're kind of resurrecting WICHE, which is a Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education. I think both Dr. Gogachi and myself are probably beneficiaries of that program. It's been around since 1959, but for those members or people present that may not know what this is the state of Nevada and 15 other Western states that didn't have certain professional schools within their state boundaries, whether it be medicine, dentistry, veterinary, physical therapy, and some of these others, they had a fund where students that applied for these professional programs in another state were subsidized, or there were tuition assistance that made up the difference between what the in-state and out-of-state tuition would be, which was pretty significant. So the legislature this year passed an $8 million one-time shot fund that would put the $8 million in a fund that would subsidize Nevada students that wish to go to veterinary school could attend Utah State University, which is a new veterinary program that is yet to be accredited, but there's really little doubt that there'd be a problem there. But it would provide out-of-state tuition for 70 Nevada residents over the course of the next 10 years. There's a terrible shortage in food animal and large animal veterinarians in this state. The unfortunate thing is we don't have a lot of say as to whether these students are going to go into large animal or small animal medicine. But it does at least, there's a provision in that tuition assistance that says that they need to come and practice in the state of Nevada for a certain period of time as a repayment. So, but just the difference in tuition at Utah State for a resident is $27,000 a year. If you're a non-resident, it can be as high as $63,000 a year. So that makes for quite a debt load for a student that gets out of school if they had to pay the full load there. So we appreciate our legislature that passed this, and Senator Gogachi as well. Might have a little influence from his son. Just happy that he didn't have to pay his son's tuition, I guess, or at least all. So anyway, grateful for that, and that's the news from my sector. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We'll go with Debbie or Mr. Charlie out there. Charlie Frey, are you out there, sir?
I'm here under Debbie. You can't see me, but I am here. Sorry about that. I'm trying to connect a different way, but I'll make it.
Go ahead.
We have been doing pretty good with the weather out in Fallon, and I don't have much more to say right now. I'm still trying to get hooked up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Paul, no.
Okay, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yes, Paul Nove, for the record, just wanted to report a little bit on what's going on here. Of course, the heat has been the main thing. I've been here in Vegas and worked in nurseries here for 45 years now. And this is the worst summer I have ever seen for heat stress on plants. And it's like our whole city is scorched right now from the damage that the heat's caused. So anyway, we've been having a real problem with that all over town and with all the nursery products. And the only other issue that has come up recently is the neonicotinoid problems that the ban that is going to take effect. And we're just waiting on the language for how that's going to be monitored and controlled and everything. So we're just waiting on that. It's going to become a great impact on some of the insects that we have that are destroying some of the plant material, like the agave weevils that are attacking a lot of the agaves that are planted without the systemic insecticides. It kills them. We're just going to have to wait until some of the chemical companies can come up with some other kind of replacements for them. But we look for that to be a pretty severe problem for the nursery industry and for the general public that have plant materials they're trying to take care of. So anyway, that's about the only thing I have for now.
Awesome, thank you. Dave Kuhn out there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Weather seems to be a theme of challenges in our industry, and we're hopefully winding down an extremely tough summer. We have had many challenges due to the heat, and we anticipate that will be breaking very quickly, which will be good for us and all of those in the industry. We keep in touch with our dairy farmers, and water continues to be an issue for them, and especially those that have animals on their land. And in this case, dairy cows consume a lot of water. Not only do they consume it for the production of the milk, but they need to be cooled, they need to be washed, and you get a large herd that has several thousand, and before long you're using a lot of water. So that continues to be a challenge in this part of the country, and they have run into challenges as of recent concerning skilled labor, not only from the technical side of things, but in animal welfare, learning how to take care of the animals. I usually touch on the processing and distribution side, but thought I'd just share a few thoughts and issues concerning the production side. Overall, in the industry, from the production to the processing, packaging, distribution, sales, and marketing of dairy products in the state, we will always be grateful for the regulation and oversight given to us from the department. We appreciate the industry being kept abreast of new issues that we need to be concerned with, and we're always grateful for the inspections within the industry that keeps everyone doing what they should be doing. We received a visit. Priscilla Twyford brought down Dr. Munchak a few weeks ago to visit with us in our facility, and we're grateful for that interest and for that concern. And Doug Ferris has always been available to us and to the industry. And I'm speaking of our gratitude, not so much as a member of the industry, although that's real, but as a board member for the industry as a whole, what the department does. So we're grateful, and it's essential to guarantee the safety and the quality of dairy products for the consumers. So again, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Charlie, we got you. Looking good. All right, we'll reach out to in Sparks, Heather Lackey.
I'm here representing pest control for Douglas County. Yes, as was stated earlier, as our seasons change, our challenges change as well. Whether we're having problems with fuel, trying to get it out, get stuck, or we've got fungus rot on alum or heat and pests. Most of my time has just been trying to clear up some confusion in the field with changes to regulation And also lots of questions on Mormon crickets and the grasshoppers that we currently have that are normally not here. So it's really nice to be able to help out and put out some of these fires for people and get them to understand what's really going on, so we can all be successful and efficient in what we're doing. And I also wanted to mention that it's a wonderful thing to be a great team. I think that we all work very well together, trying to solve problems for the people in the state, you know, whether it's people in industry or just individuals doing their everyday life, trying to help them to understand what it is that we're doing for them. And it's really an honor, and I just want to say thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Heather. We appreciate that as well. It takes a team for sure. I think that's about everybody there. So we'll start with Brooke on the left-hand side.
Great. So this Division of Food and Nutrition report here, if you guys want to take a look at this, this tells you the numbers of people that have been served from the food bank in Northern Nevada and the Spring Food Bank in Southern Nevada. What I want to do is really just start painting a picture of the clients receiving this food, because it's different from looking on a map and, you know, but really just kind of getting an understanding of who is benefiting from this supplemental food. We have two different supplemental food pots. It's TFAP and CSFP. CSFP are for Nevadans over the age of 60. TFAP, the majority, we typically have two buckets. It's oftentimes that people are just looking for supplemental food because of the cost of living has just become so expensive that people are literally having to make those tough choices between power and more food, right? So that is a lot of the clients that we're serving is people that are literally dependent upon this as supplemental food. And then a lot of most of our senior clients report to us that many of them work corporate America and work their whole entire lives, and they're now on a fixed income. And when we ask them further details, just in trying to understand the population that we're serving, many of them say that they are the surviving spouse in a household, and they thought that the other spouse was managing the finances. They had no idea of the picture. So, you know, sometimes people can think, oh, it's just government assistance, it's government food, but they're not putting a face to those people that are receiving it. And it's very real, and it's such a need. So these programs are they're literally a lifeline for these people that are doing that are participating in these programs. TFAP is a unique program because you literally don't have to certify for the program. You just have to be a Nevada resident. You self-declare your income that you're eligible. Whereas CSFP, you have to recertify every year, which doesn't make sense really, because if you're a senior on this program, the likelihood of your income is not likely going to change because you're typically in a retired age. So our team went to a really great regional conference in June. It was a best practice conference where CSFP providers from the region showed up and talked, and they all expressed that same concern, was that takes a lot of admin. So they're trying to get that changed. So hopefully that will be changed, but I'll keep you guys posted on that. And then things that I am just continuing to try to kind of break down. I'm just literally diving deep into this. I did not understand the supplemental food system before I got into the business of supplemental food. But I think that for me, we're working with UNLV right now. We just surveyed 17,000 of our clients to really get a good understanding of what they're struggling with and how this food is benefiting them on a deeper level. So I can't wait to share those reports with you guys. Just really trying to kind of figure out how many pounds are really coming through, how many pounds are wasted, and how are those getting reported, because I know for our organization, we serve over 300,000 pounds of food per month. And in July, most of the produce that we received was rotten and we couldn't distribute it. So I just feel like those types of things are really great things for us to communicate internally between the agency partners and the food banks to just kind of try to figure out, is it coming to the food bank that way, or is there delay time? What can we do together as a team to create more efficiency so that we can make that better? And you know, a lot of these agency partners with the food banks are small churches, so they don't know what to do. Whereas a larger organization like us, we can send it to the hog farm, or we can, you know, help people use it as compost. So those are just things that I'll be sharing with you guys as the time goes by. And if you guys ever have any questions on these types of programs, or ever want to learn anything else, I'd love to answer questions.
Thank you, I appreciate that. A lot of stuff we don't know with the TFAP and how important it is. And it's like, yeah, the pandemic's over, but people still need food, right? You know, at the end of the day, and I appreciate what JJ's team does, the Home Feed Nevada program. It takes a village. It really does.
Yeah.
An understanding of it.
And the fact that you guys are understanding of the fact that the fresh food, the canned food, it's a great lifeline, it's great pantry essential, but we can't just provide, you know, shelf-stable food because they're not going to be healthy. And many of these people are, especially the senior clients, they're not living a healthy, you know, diet and all of those things. So that Home Feeds Nevada is incredible for that because it encourages and all of the food nutrition education is just key. So thank you all for what you guys do.
Thank you so much, Brooke, and welcome. Valerie, what you got?
I fuel prices.
You guys making all that money.
Well, here the weather is affecting it too, because when it's hot, like it's been triple digits, all the refineries can't run at 100%. They're running at like 85, 90, which causes shortage because this is the busiest time of the year. And you know how supply and demand is. So that's been a big issue over here on the West Coast. So, and then Burning Man and Labor Day. But other than that, it hasn't been anything changed that it has been across the year. It's not as bad as last year. Last year we had huge supply problems, and this year it's kind of leveled out. So that's the good news I have.
Thanks, yes,
so all of this, but that's the reason right here, the last 2 weeks, diesel fuel has raised 70 cents a gallon.
Isn't it crazy?
And why didn't gas change?
Well, they say there's shortages of diesel, but you know.
Because 3 weeks ago, gas was $4.21 a
And
gallon.
don't look at your little guys.
So today was
It's more of a downline refineries and pipelines and stuff where your price increases. So I know I'm having to buy it too. So
when you see the gas price never moved, then diesel fuel was 70 cents a gallon.
Exactly.
I can understand why one.
And usually one will go up and then the other one follows, and then there's a drop that follows down too. But it's been quite extreme for diesel the last couple of weeks. I don't have an exact answer.
Thanks, Valerie. Bernard, what do you got?
So, Bernard Peterson, True Record, beef production in Eastern Nevada. Yesterday, I looked at the NOAA drought monitor just to see where we were in Nevada. And comparative to a year ago, there was one small spot in the state of Nevada down around Lake Mead that still is under drought conditions. And the rest of the entire state has been released from the NOAA map. There are no other areas of continuous drought in Nevada as of yesterday. So, you know, that tells us that we are in significantly better condition than we were a year ago or 2 years ago or even 3. And with that said, range conditions in eastern Nevada are above average and in some cases exceptionally good condition. We have in some areas we have more standing feed right now, as we have removed animals from range than we had grown in the last two previous seasons. So conditions are very good. Beef production is good. The beef market in our area and all of the state, I think everywhere in the United States is strong. The calf market seems to be setting new highs weekly. I don't know how that's going to carry in the future because there's plenty of diminishing returns here, and we'll see how that goes in the winter months. The lamb market, beef kind of heavy. It's improved marginally. The one thing that I do have to give some appreciation to the part of the bag is some of Doug's and JJ's travels and looking into the marketing, the market capability of what we can do with Nevada commodities, because the hay market, which is completely dependent on foreign trade and Chinese export and milk production, is terrible right now for the entire state of Nevada. Trying to sell your product for a profitable margin is near impossible. So we need to open up some of those new trade avenues. And in your travels, that's nice that you're out there, JJ, beating on doors, because the producers in this state are going to need your help this year. What I got. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, in Lyon County, it seems like it's been a very eventful and wild few months, starting with the threat of flood through the spring and early summer. Fortunately, due to the efforts of Walker River Irrigation District and the county and the city and producers, mitigation efforts or prevention efforts really saved the town of Yerington from devastating destruction. Now those entities are seeking compensation of some form from FEMA or FSA or something, and it's questionable whether we're going to get anything for those tremendous efforts. FEMA would rather pay for after the fact destruction rather than prevention, apparently. But anyway, that's where that is. The weather in our area, we've had a hot summer, but I don't think as extreme as other areas. And as a consequence, most of the crops, well, the vegetable crops anyway, have done pretty well. Then there's the forages, and that whole deal is a disaster between rained on hay and the market has tanked. The hay market and the whole hay business is really suffering from current conditions. Very little quality hay has come out of our area. Almost no dairy due to the rain. And now there's a huge glut of forages, at least in our area, and I suppose a wider area. So you cattle guys need to rebuild those herds.
Or buy hay runners up there.
Vegetables, for the most part, I think have done fairly well, and the vegetable harvests are in full swing, and looks pretty good for the lettuces, the carrots, the onions, garlic. That all looks fairly good, although the garlic suffered somewhat from rains. So I think that's all I've done.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
Come on, sheep man, be positive.
Right out of the gate. I'm almost ready to never make reports no more because JJ picks them apart or accuses me of whining. I hear, other than Bernard doesn't whining, but well, the sheep are really doing quite well this summer. Like Bernard said, I think we're going to leave more feed than we had to start with for years. I don't think very many people are hauling any water, which is a good thing. I don't hear a lot of complaining about predators right now. I'm not sure what's the happiness about that. One issue though that
not very fun right now and very, very scary in the whole industry, including Nevada, maybe more of Nevada. We got advocacy groups that are looking for disgruntled sheep herders so they can turn around and sue the industry and the state and the association, the Western Range Association that handles all of this. They've got a $150 million lawsuit against the state of Nevada. And they're trying to go back to 2012 of every sheep producer in the state of Nevada, looking back at their records to see if they paid their people. If they, I mean, if that was to take case, whatever the 5 or 6 producers in the state of Nevada would owe $150 some million. Colorado's going through it. There's a big thing in the Capitol Press the other day about how abusive we are to sheep herders. They're working 24 hours a day. They're not being fed. I mean, it's huge. There's an advocacy group out there that it's a bunch of lawyers that's really trying to capitalize on that, and it's atrocious. It's scary. I mean, not just in Nevada. Pretty big in Nevada, probably one of the bigger ones. But Idaho's facing it. Colorado's got a lot of issues right now. So that part is very doom and gloom. An Elko County problem. I'm going to give my little shot there.
Go get Megan.
This year with apple forage, the Scotch thistle has exploded. Well, I know that there's a lot of contributing factors that worry, but what worries us, because we are sheep, we are cow people too. I don't think the seeds collect on cows as much as they do on a sheep, but if you run a bunch of sheep through a patch of Scotch thistle, you know how many million seeds is getting into that wool. Then we're going to trade in our sheep go clear to almost the Railroad Valley to Highway 6. I've hounded at this meeting several years, and it wasn't even a problem then to look back at what it looks like today. I've been riding for cows here for the last few days. It don't matter what a lot. We have spent, David Little has literally, and JJ can confirm, we're in common along. That man has spent, I'll bet you $50,000 spraying on BLM ground, private ground, just to try to keep it off of our out of the thing. And it looks like nothing now. I mean, the road right away, JJ sees it driving up and down the road. Solid thistle. I rode yesterday places I never see thistle before, these are the birds are back. If somebody does not get on the thistle program, they can talk about leafy spurge and hound's tongue, and it does all this stuff in a little place, but that stuff is like cancer. It is rolling. I don't know what they're gonna do about it. I mean, I see areas, I can take you to a 40-acre parcel. It's taller than Mississippi. You know how many gazillion seeds that Scotch thistle produces. So we feel bad. We can't stop running livestock, can't stop running sheep, and I can just only imagine what kind of wool, what that wool can collect and distribute. You know, I've bragged on the BLM, I've bragged on the county, I've bragged on my neighbors, I've bragged on myself, I've bragged on my employees. We're driving past one and not chopping it down. I mean, but it's to visualize it, it's scary. It's not good. So I know in the sheep industry, I'm concerned about it very much of how much we're contributing now to the problem, which we wanted to avoid before it got to this point. Lamb prices are decent. They've come back. Last year, you couldn't get a bid on the lamb, or at least this time of the year, you couldn't get one that got sold in the board here. Right now, they're standing around $2. Better than hoping the Iowa sharks to do it. With that, that's all I have.
Before you go, I'll just say, you know, we've heard a couple things. We've heard from Neonex, from Paul, and Pete with the thistle. And I think Ashley has some updates when we get to that plant thing on there that we're aware of. And we are working But as you know, when you don't do anything for 40 years, it's going to take a little bit. But we'll let Ashley talk to that.
Thanks, JJ. Yeah, so Woody Worthington, Director, General Ag, Chair. In Douglas County, it's been the same. You know, just trying to get the hay up. Good growing conditions, but pretty wet. So they've been struggling in that area for the most part. But I think hay prices are going to be very interesting when our futures guy says, I don't know where it's going to land. That's pretty concerning. So hopefully we can come up with some ideas on that. Shifting gears to across the board, I gave an update last time on ag education. It's been really remarkable, and a shout out to everybody that's been participating and doing that, as far as FFA, the Grange, everybody. NDA has new Shelley Pope and their ag literacy to the university, really making an impact for where our food comes from, how to sustain it, how to maintain it. So it's been really remarkable the last couple of months. I know I had to put new brakes on that ag wagon, burned the brakes off of it, 32,000 miles. So, but the impact is great, and the education department too, as well as the state, has been really embracing that ag education too. So that's all I have for my update. I appreciate everybody and their update. I took a lot of notes, scribbles, and I'm sure JJ will work on a couple of those problem areas. So thank you, board. I appreciate it. Moving to agenda item number 5. JJ's report.
All right, thank you. And you guys probably know me by now. I'll try to keep this short, and I like to answer questions if you have those questions. First thing Woody alluded to, we have new staff here in the room. We have Mr. Chad Sustinovich, Division Administrator for Animal Industry. Those here will have lunch after the meeting today, or we'll take a break from where we are in the agenda. Take a moment, introduce yourself to him, learn a little bit about him. We're pretty lucky that we were able to coach him and get him in here. Definitely a livestock guy. And you think Doug and I and Amar are frugal? This guy's tighter than we are. So we're he's watching those nickels. There's no doubt about it. Shelley Pope, she's there in Sparks. Some of you probably haven't met her yet. Woody talked about her. Our ag literacy coordinator, doing a wonderful job already. We're just hopeful we're not going to stretch her thin. She's good. She's doing a lot with ag in the classroom stuff. She's a teacher by trade. She wants to get into that classroom and do a lot of that 3rd, 4th, 5th grade stuff. And obviously she's doing the FFA stuff with Miss Dye. She's working in conjunction with Woody. And then maybe a little other piece of news. She is going to be the state of Nevada BQA coordinator, Beef Quality Assurance Coordinator. We haven't had one in a long time. And I thought it was a natural fit. So with her and her ambition, we'll go everywhere from elementary school to adults with that education in agriculture. And I think it was time that we got back to stuff like that. So when you get down in Sparks, be sure to stop in and see Shelley, or if she's out in the country. I think she'll be in Edie next week, actually, isn't it next week, for the range program, or for the soils. So she's doing a good job there. Last week, week before, with Governor Lombardo in Memorial Canyon. That was a good meeting. I got to see a lot of our friends there as part of our shared stewardship that we're doing there, predominantly with the Forest Service and then DCNR and NDF. We're continuing on that front. Much of what Pete Paris said is true. We are worried about the spread of these invasive and noxious weeds and plant species, and we are committed as an agency to turning that tide. We cannot continue to go the way we are. We're going to rely on those county partners for that. We are going to schedule meetings this fall with our counties, all of them, and let's talk about everything from noxious weeds to Mormon crickets and grasshoppers, which I will get to in a minute. We also, I sit on the Water Infrastructure Technical Advisory Committee, TAC. There's $100 million out there, one-shot money for water infrastructure. 75 million of that is kind of going into more of our urban center, I guess, where we're looking at septic tanks, water conservation, that kind of thing. But there is 25 million that we earmarked for water retirement. And a lot of that is probably going to be agricultural water retirement in basins that are over appropriated for our critical management management areas, the likes of that. So we will be meeting next week on that as well. Those of you that are in agriculture and in the country definitely understand what I'm talking about. And we have too many straws in the ground in some of these basins. These producers there have water rights. And so the option of pulling the rug out from under them, or perhaps giving them an option from the state to lessen that blow if they have to sell those water rights. And then that land could be placed into other production, whether that is renewable energy or it's a more of a cover crop, i.e. crested wheat, forage of some kind, and then the livestock industry can come behind there and utilize that. So we are working on that, and I am committed to protecting agriculture on that tack every step of the way. Conservation role from the BLM, we're still actively engaged in that. I did meet last week with leadership from Interior and the BLM from Washington, D.C., and it was how they envision the conservation rule and conservation leases playing with wild horses. They said, we hadn't thought about that. Well, they better think about it in Nevada. One comment said, well, we don't think we would ever let a conservation lease out if wild horses weren't at or close to AML. And I said, well, I guess we can take Nevada off the table. We don't have to worry about conservation leases. They didn't find humor in it, obviously, but we are still engaged with that. Folks, that's going full steam ahead. There will be a conservation rule. I don't know what it will look like. I am still hopeful that perhaps with the Congressional Review Act, we can get something done legislatively on the Hill that may pull that back or send it back to the drawing board at the very least. But stay tuned for that. That will be out there. They are being very creative now in that, well, maybe we'll enter into an agreement with some groups to do fertility control on horses, and we will consider that a conservation use under a conservation lease. So they've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to hold their feet to the fire there, definitely. More just kind of internal stuff, day-to-day things. Obviously, we continue to participate in the governor's cabinet meetings. We've got a really good team on that natural resource side. We work every day with wildlife and with conservation and natural resource. The three of us directors talk all the time. We talk with Tim Robb. He's our direct liaison to the governor's office. That man is doing a tremendous amount of work, and hopefully he does not burn out. But we're very fortunate to have him, and I think the direction we are going natural resource wise is definitely positive. We did have an executive branch audit committee that Amara and I and Janet attended a while back. And during that, it was review the implementation of some grant program changes from a previous administration. We have most of those in place. We are making headway that way. The findings that the previous administration had, we're hoping to not have those again. But it was interesting. There was a lot of conversation in that meeting because we know grants in general in the state need help. The management of those grants. There was a lot of money came out, and it was just, here it is. So we're trying to manage that and do the best we can, but we're not the only agency. And I think that executive committee understood that advisory group for the audit. Council on Food Security meetings, Holly and I still attend those regularly. I know Brooke is on those as well. Sagebrush Ecosystem Council, we're still actively plugging along on that. And I don't know if Ashley has an update she wants to give. We do have a vacancy on our position on the technical team on that. We're trying to get that filled. We had some good candidates, and we continue to struggle with that salary parity and bringing those people over. But that we have been promised is going to continue to change. There has been a new NRS 284 changes as far as how we're going to fill those positions, what that's going to look like to the Department of Administration. We had a big every department meeting, and then they actually came and met with us separately again as an agency on a virtual meeting. We have got to streamline how we onboard people. It's easy to onboard. It's easier. It's not easy. It's easier to onboard people in an unclassified position and get them on board. Unfortunately, sometimes it can take 30 days to get an individual their first paycheck, and that's not right. Not acceptable when you ask someone to quit a job, come work for the state, and we'll get you paid at some time. The flip side of that is these pools and the lists and how we open a position for an AA2, for example, and they pull the list, and then we didn't hire anybody, and we got to go back and pull a whole new list. They're talking about doing bigger pools that we can go into and pull from to speed that up. Having vacancies for 60 days doesn't work for us. We're a pretty nimble organization and we're customer service oriented. And we don't have butts in the seats to do the work, we start getting farther behind. And that's not acceptable to me and it's not acceptable to Doug. And so we're working hard with the Department of Administration to fix those things. Back kind of to the livestock front, I did attend the grazing and a foot and mouth outbreak conference in Denver a while back. I have been involved in that group for the last 3 years, so I continue to stay engaged in that group. Dr. Shank, I'm sure you will agree, Dr. Spratling is here in the room in the peanut gallery, but we know what a foreign animal disease will do to this country and to the state of Nevada. But one thing they hadn't thought about was what's that going to look like if we're grazing public lands and we get the all stop. And yeah, it'll be a minimum of 72 hours, but then what? How long is that going to take? How do we start clearing zones? How do we let sheep move from Huntington Valley to Sand Springs when we know that they have to go? And our federal partners hadn't thought about that. They just said, no, you're not going to move. Well, when the snow's up the Peachbury end, then usually doing real good in Huntington. So they have to go somewhere. And it's not an option to just leave them there. It's not an option to feed them there. So we have put together quite a document. You guys should see it coming out this winter on guidance and what that's going to look like and how we issue permits to move. And I'm not talking about a permit, a BLM permit, but Pete Munchak, our state vet over here, will say, all right, guys, where are you moving to? Bernard, do you need to move your ewes from A to B? Who's in the middle? Let's make sure we're not going towards an area that is in a control zone. Definitely not going to be a control zone. Even if it's a surveillance zone, we might want to go around that. So we are actively engaged in that. It's pretty exciting that the Western states have actually been able to contribute to that. I think it's a good product. FRTC, Fallon Range Training Complex. I am now the chair of the Intergovernmental Executive Committee for that. I think it's timely because we have a lot of grazing impacts that are going to be happening there with that. Those appraisals are being done now on some of those allotments that they are going to remove from livestock grazing. Closure letters have went out. Some permittees are now under 2 years before their grazing rights will be revoked on there. We are having closed door meetings with permittees and with leadership of the Navy on what we expect those appraisals to look like. You can't simply appraise for the turf. That ranch will cease to operate. That entire operation will not be there. They are not a willing seller at this point. So some of those appraisals were supposed to be done in October. Interesting note, they didn't even have the maps yet of what they were supposed to be appraising. They couldn't tell us if wells were inside or outside an expanded area. So you don't even know where the line is. So we are keeping our foot on their neck, so to speak, and making sure that that gets done right. Deputy Director Ferris did attend WASDA, Western Association of State Departments of Ag in Denver. And I'll pause in a minute if he wants to add anything about that meeting. I appreciate him covering that for me because at the same time, I was at a summer meeting in San Diego for National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And we talked about almost everything you guys talked about, markets to weeds, to the need to expand that, to the drought, to everything else. So we are out there, as Bernard says, we're knocking on doors, we're going to a lot of meetings, we're making a lot of phone calls, and I think we are going in the right direction. I have just two more things, Mr. Chair, if I can. We have been actively engaged, Doug, Bill, and myself in emergency management meetings. It seems like it never stops. It's been flood. We haven't had the other F word yet in the state this year, and hopefully we won't. We get some more moisture and we won't see those large columns of smoke. Hurricane Hillary, we did activate just for a bit as agriculture for that. We didn't see a lot of impacts to that other than Mr. Kuhn brought this up, you know, the dairy situation. I want to thank DEM and NDOT for helping us lean on California, Caltrans. And just across the border, we did have some roads closed and we were seeing some shipping disruptions to dairies in Southern Nevada because of that. Milk out, commodity in. And so we were seeing a large increase in the amount of miles those trucks were having to run. And it was estimated for the one dairy to be $250,000 a month. It was going to cost them in additional freight, in additional because they could not run a straight route. We leaned on Caltrans and we got those roads open late Monday night. So thankfully, it wasn't a priority to them. Not a lot of people, but it was definitely a priority to Nevada agriculture, and we got that done. And then just one more plug for Amara's team. I want to read an email from yesterday. Good morning, we did it. We made the closing deadline for 8/29. Somehow going on my third fiscal closing here at NDA, I become the veteran on the team, which gives me some perspective to be able to greatly appreciate this accomplishment. This is my first time in 4 years with the state. I have been on a team who has met the deadline. Yes, there will be some follow-up and finalization with Governor's Finance Office to truly rest on the closing, but those one-off items, yeah, all right, I'll do it, Pete. Will be handled by Marco and myself. The rest of the team can finally breathe and get back to the regular jobs without the pressure of closing. I am reaching out to say thank you for your support, kind words, participation in our bingo game. This makes a very stressful time fun for us and reassures us that we are truly working towards the bigger mission we are all here for. You might not be able to recognize the positive changes you have implemented this past year, but I have lived through them. The fact I feel comfortable sending this email to you directly is a remarkable change in itself. I'm grateful for everything our team has accomplished this summer, and even more so, the weathering the turnover storm this past year has proven to be worth it. I'm so happy to be on this team and love coming to work every day. I'm enthusiastic about what we are going to continue to improve and accomplish together. It is a privilege to work here for this leadership team. No response necessary. Have fun in Elko. See you back in Sparks. And that was sent to Amara, Doug, and myself. The faith you guys have put in us, we definitely appreciate it. It's been pushing a rock a little bit, but when we have team members that feel this way, I think we're going the right way. And so I hope you guys feel the same. And if you're hearing something different, we want to hear that. We always hear the negative. It is pretty nice to hear the positive once in a while. Doug, I don't know if you have anything you want to talk about on Found Lost.
I don't think, for the record, Doug Ferris, the meeting it was good for me, especially to be able to meet with the other state partners of agriculture from the western states. It actually was really beneficial as far as Idaho, just because with us bordering them, some of the trick rigs that are on right now, I was able to sit down and just talk with them about that. Arizona, Utah, we have some conversations, even talked about their park program, things like that, out of Wyoming as well. So we've just good collaboration to actually be able to sit down and get there. I mean, we can email, we can do telephone calls, but when you sit down and you just discuss that, it goes a long way. And if you can see something that other states doing that will benefit us, that's great. So it was just a good conversation.
So any questions for us?
Like that was a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. More just comments. I mean, not speaking on behalf of all the board, but one I had mentioned, yeah, you've been here a year. It's only been 7 months. And Brad, they know, and that fiscal close is unbelievable. And what that team did, that's a brand new team. If the board doesn't know, that's unbelievable. That's a lot of moving pieces. And wonderful job. Keep up the good work. Hopefully we don't have the other F word. I know it's coming. Weather's gonna be turning, but great job on the staff. I don't need to say anymore. You guys are doing really, really good work. So
well, it's a team, Mr. Chairman. We have put a wonderful team together here. We couldn't do it without that team, any part of it. And so I want them all to know how thankful we are for all the staff that's out here sitting down in Las Vegas and those that are still at headquarters working away today. Without them, we're dead in the water, and they're doing great job.
Awesome. We appreciate it for sure. Thank you. Amazing. All right, we're going to move to agenda item number 6, and then we'll take a break after that. We'll go right to our administrators.
Share my screen in a minute. But we're also going to go over some of the general admin areas, trade and economic development. To start with, we had a few inbound and outbound missions that we did this year. The Japan Pet Products was an inbound mission in June. We also had the North American Agricultural Marketing Officials Annual Conference, which was held in Sparks in July. And we wanted to just say thank you to all our participants, and you allowed us to go out and take these people to see Nevada agriculture. We also presented Stellar Snacks with
the NAMO marketer of the year. They're based out of Carson. They actually have really good snacks. You guys get into Carson, grab some of those. Hong Kong Consumer Oriented Inbound Trade Mission was in July. The NASDA Tri-National Accord was in August. This one's a great one for building trade or removing trade barriers and building trade agreements with US, Mexico, and Canada. So they work really closely with Nevada and the US to build those trade agreements. Panama and Colombia was an outbound trade mission in August. We do have the Picture Nevada Food and Agricultural Photo Contest that ends tomorrow. So shoot in some pictures for us. And we're also working on the 2024 Nevada Craft Beverage Passport. That is a deadline of today. So if you guys know some craft beverage people, come on, send them in. We did 16 news articles and published those and drafted those and those based on Nevada agriculture. So if you guys can take a look at those articles and share those with people of interest. We do have our monthly newsletter and industry notices. If you guys want to go ahead and sign up for those, that'd be great if not already. And then we did publish our Q1 trade report on our website. We also had 43 public record requests that we have met. Aware of that. The Women's Farm to Food Accelerator Program is going forward. That should have some public notices going out. We'll have a public meeting, and then on 10/1 we'll start to do those. So women in the agricultural industry. This is a grant-funded program, and is very good to get them into the specialty crop block grant funding program that we have going on. Nevada Agriculture's Teachers Association. We had our new Ms. Pope attended that in July. And she's working hard to get those forward in our presentations out there. We do have 4 vacancies within the department. We have a grant project analyst 1. We have a management analyst 1. Those both work in the grant area for us. And then we have an accounting assistant position, which we have filled. That was an ARPA funded position. And then we have the public information officer in Las Vegas that is open. We also, so I'm going to go through our budget presentation. I'm going to share, we were, as JJ said, struggling to close our budget. Deadline was the 29th. So we picked a couple budgets that were available to present, and they happened to be livestock inspections and pest plant disease and noxious weed control. It's kind of a theme today. So these will be good ones to share. These are going to show you the actuals versus the actuals versus budget for the 2024-25, which we're in fiscal year 24 at right now. We just closed fiscal year 23, and we were going to buy inland as we discussed. So livestock inspections is a primarily fee-funded program. We do get some taxation coming in, if you want to consider that, from our head tax, which is an NRS mandated tax. But it's primarily a fee-funded one. We have 6 full-time positions, and we also have 26 part-time or intermittent positions. If you look over here, we have enhancements. What those are called is every year when we go and present a budget to the legislature, you ask for additional items. So you would ask for, say, a pickup truck, or you would ask for equipment, or you ask for positions. This year in this budget account, these are the equipment items we asked for. Starting this year, we'll spend about $17,000. Next year, we'll only spend about $1,700. This account is primarily funded by recording fees or re-recording fees, which are done on a 5-year basis. So we kind of try and look at the expenses in this account and keep them minimal. So that's why you're seeing 25. So for revenue, your actuals here are based on 2023 actuals. We did 2.1 million in 22, 2.9 million, or about 3 million in 23. If you look, you see some balance forwards here. These are revenue that we balanced forward, which means we put them in a reserve account, and we can use those going forward. But your actuals will be at the top there. And the budget is based on the aggregate of the actuals and the balance forwards. That's why that's a higher number. As we go forward, we can present them as actuals versus the aggregate.
your expenditures, you'll see we have a balanced budget. Most of the items that are left forward, you will see in a reserve account. So you'll see where those expenditures that we didn't fully expend, those budget accounts, go into that reserve account, and then they project it based on what we've done before. Pest, plant, disease, and noxious weeds. We have 6 full-time positions in this one. This one actually includes our grants and project analyst 1 position, which we are hiring for an admin. And then we have just 1 enhancement in this budget account for $1,100 in 24 and nothing in 25. This is a fully grant funded, so you typically won't see a lot of enhancements unless we try and go for a full-time position that is not grant funded. This one, you'll see a couple negatives in the balance forward. It's primarily because we weren't able to pull in those grant funds. Some grant funds are next day, some are same day, some take 5 to 10 days, 3 weeks. So we just weren't able to get those expenditures in, do the request for reimbursement, and get those grants pulled in before we had to close on this. So that balance of a negative would carry forward, and then we'll pull those funds in and have an excess in 24 and 25. Expenditures are all balanced. We do have minimal reserve balances in here because of the grant funding. We really should never have a reserve in a grant funded program. These reserves are based on reimbursements, some form of we sold a vehicle that was part of this program, that sort of thing. And that's it. So what questions?
All right, Charlie, you asked for it.
Mr. Frey, do you have any questions for Amara?
I congratulate you guys on getting that all in. I listened to it very attentively. I think that you did a very good job. Thank you, JJ. I wanted to make sure you're aware that I'm aware that you guys did a good job. Thank you.
Any other board members have any questions for Mark?
I would just say that the format is nice and readable and less intimidating.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have one thing to this, just in case we get questions later on. As far as the 26 part-time brand inspectors, there's 26 positions filled. There's actually 30 open positions. So I just want to make sure, so if anybody looks at this later, so that there are 26 filled, there's 30 available, and there's also 20 of the contract positions. So those are all still there. So if anybody asks. Nope.
So is personal services, is that the employees? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are all salaries.
Any other questions or comments for Mark? Once again, great job. I mean,
Thank you.
unbelievable. That's pretty rad. Good job for sure. Well, hearing them, we're gonna go ahead and take a recess real quick. I'm sure if you've got to go use the restroom and stuff, we'll be back in about 10 minutes, and then we'll start off agenda item number 7.
Yes. For the muscles of the spring.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Sparks, can you hear us again? Are we back?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yep. Okay.
Perfect. I call this meeting back to order. We're on agenda item number 7, animal industry. We're going to do a board update with Chad, and then Doug will be there to assist if there needs some backup. I think Chad can do it. So,
well, I might need some backup. But, yeah. How are you guys? I'm the new animal division administrator. I started about a month ago, July 31st. I'll be based right here in this office. I'm surrounded by a lot of good, talented people, and I'm excited about it. I see a bright future in this department, and I look forward to working. I'll get started. There's a pretty good list. Rebuilding in accordance with the livestock inspection program. Business plan continues to progress. Staff to continue to revise and edit the current proposed language of NAC 571 for future in-person virtual workshops and later hearing. During the 2023 legislative session, the Division of the Animal Industry was approved for a new deputy administrator position. This position will be available for recruitment October 1st. Virginia Range Feral Stray Force Project Manager Jim Wheeler was hired to oversee the VRE program, compile program data, manage fencing projects, and ensure cooperative agreement compliance. Our partnership activities, USDA APHIS, Nevada staff continue on working in conjunction with USDA APHIS in informing and furthering Nevada's animal disease traceability. The NDA continues to utilize 2023 grant funding from USDA APHIS and ADT and umbrella cooperative agreements. Regarding the Wild Horse Connection, NDA will renew the Wild Horse Connection non-exclusive cooperative agreement in August 2023. Here currently.
That means today. That might be September. I'm sorry, all these on my desk.
Calls between May 1st and 2023 to current are reported to be 107. The Wild Horse Connection reports 5 horses versus vehicle crashes from May 2023 to current. There were 42 crashes reported in 2023, 27 in 2021, and 46 reported in 2020. 3 horses have been relocated from various urban areas to less urban populated areas of the Virginia Range. WHC continues to work on fencing projects to prevent horses from straying outside of the boundaries of the Virginia Range area internally. Diversionary feeding in NDA approved locations to draw horses away from highways and urban areas. The American Wild Horse Campaign, the NDA and the AWHC entered into its 5th year of non-exclusive cooperative agreement with a begin date of April 28, 2023, and is valid until April 2024. The NDA continues to receive monthly reports from AWHC covering the VRE horse fertility program. The AWHC database has been updated to report 3,507 living and individually identified horses located in the Virginia Range. That's a big difference from 1997. That was 413. With program updates, the commercial feed. This program has 276 registered and active accounts from May 1st, 2023 to current. With livestock enforcement, the NDA's agricultural police officers have dedicated their time toward the following duties during the time frame of May 1st, 2023 to current. 30 livestock investigations, 3 animal health investigations, 1 animal quarantine, 317 traffic stops, 6 transit inspections, and 25 check sites, 183 brand inspections, 26 strays, 37 strays, and 7 VRE responses, 8 livestock and roadway responses, 2 vehicle crashes with livestock and crashes, 8 crashes involving traffic, 23 highway kills, 4 livestock railroad kills, 5,200 administrative staff hours, 53 agency assists, 589 staff training hours, 1,919 phone calls, 48 event public auction checks, 166 contacts made, 52.4 staff hours for equipment maintenance, 27 warnings issued, 1 misdemeanor citation issued. With the livestock identification, staff have compiled more than 2,874 brand inspection clearance certificates for a total of 70,245 animals, including the public livestock auctions from May 1st to 2023. Brand inspectors have worked 2,464 hours and traveled 50,884 miles performing brand inspections from May 1st, 2023 to current. 4,257 brand renewal notices were delivered to registered brand owners via email and hard copy in the beginning of November 2022. Currently, registered brand owners have renewed 4,177 active Nevada brands and 601 expired brands. We have received 2,143 livestock assessment filings for 2023. The Sparks office and program staff have received more than 40 phone calls or emails relating to VRE horses from May 1st, 2023 to current. With the predatory animal and rodent control, park staff have provided technical assistance, non-lethal predator recommendations, and removal of predators where required across the state throughout the time of May 1st, 2023 to current. The primary species of predatory animal addressed during the time includes European starlings, 52%, ravens, 35%, coyotes, 12%, and the remaining 1% was comprised of mountain lions and striped skunks. There's recruitment for a field assistant 2 in Fallon and 1 field assistant 2 here in Elko, and we are about to start interviews on the 1 in Fallon here shortly. Still waiting on a few more people to apply for the position in Elko. With veterinary medical services, in June, Dr. Munchak attended the Western States Livestock Health Association meeting in Cody, Wyoming, in conjunction with National Association of State Meat and Food Inspection Directors. The WSLHA is a district meeting of the United States Animal Health Association. Dr. Munchak represents the Western States on the executive board of USAHA. They discussed a variety of important topics.
Let's take this read on.
Yeah, I've got that. In Las Vegas area, NBA quarantine and premise for neurologic horses with equine herpes, a very contagious disease of horses that can be spread by horse-to-horse contact. No other horses on the facility had any signs, and the quarantine was lifted. The horse improved with treatment at the clinic in Utah. On June 6th, state veterinarian and veterinary diagnostician and NDA agricultural police officers assisted Lyon County Sheriff's Office and Animal Control with an investigation and depopulation of 155 impounded fighting birds. And an additional 59 birds were found deceased on the site. NDA sampled approximately 15% of the birds for avian influenza and Newcastle disease. All samples results returned were negative. The state veterinarian veterinary diagnostician sampled 55 chickens for AI and exotic Newcastle disease. There was a quarantine placed for vesicular stomatitis in 2 horses in White Pine County. The VSD is a vector-transmitted virus that causes blisters where the insect bite the livestock, and we often get oral leak, breaks the lips, and get the virus on the tongue. That quarantine has been lifted. The NDA continues to submit samples for sheep and goats to meet the requirements of the National Scrapie Eradication Program. The most updated information indicates that NDA staff have collected 138 sheep heads and 31 goat heads throughout the month of May. NDA has met yearly requirements for goats and still actively collecting sheep to meet that requirement. In May and June 2023, 685 sheep and 885 goats were inspected at the 2 Fallon public livestock auctions for Scrapie ID compliance. Dr. Bugachita, the veterinary diagnostician and NDA livestock inspector, performed Scrapie livestock inspections in Fallon and Reno at the Nevada Junior Livestock Show during this period. NDA distributed 573 EID tags to Nevada cattle producers between May and July 2023. The Animal Disease Laboratory closed out the fiscal year 23 with 10,271 procedures, accounting for 29,826 tests. For fiscal 24, the ADL performs 2,241 procedures, accounting for 4,174 tests and or services to date. Since May 2023, the ADL performed West Nile virus, St. Louis encephalitis, and Western equine encephalitis surveillance testing on 697 pools consisting of 23,141 mosquitoes and 2 avian specimens submitted by partnering vector and public health agencies. All pools were negative. The Southern Nevada Health Department has reported 3 West Nile virus positive pool mosquitoes to date. The ADL continues to provide non-human rabies surveillance for the state of Nevada. For the current calendar year, there have been 205 cases and 7 positive bats found in Clark County, Carson City, and White Pine County. The NDA continues to support the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health on the Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologist Grant. This grant funds the influenza and zoonosis education among youth in agriculture and will support ongoing efforts to improve education on zoonotic disease, specifically among youth who are actively involved with or around livestock such as sheep, chicken, or pigs. In June of 2023, the ADL has inspected and by the USDA for equine infectious anemia. No deficiencies were noted. In July 23, the ADL successfully passed EIA proficiency testing issued by the USDA, National Veterinary Service Laboratories. May of 2023, the ADL technical staff members successfully completed PT in proficiency testing and rabies testing through the Wisconsin State and Laboratory Hygiene Proficiency Testing. They successfully completed PT related in bacteriology and parasitology issued by the Veterinary Laboratory Association Quality Assurance Program. The ADL supervisor successfully completed the Nevada Certified Contract Manager course to support future animal industry contracting. The ADL and other laboratories at the NDA continue to work on the comprehensive build for a new laboratory information management system. The vendor is currently working with the NDA laboratories and their subject matter experts to ensure a smooth transition. Dairy processing and auditing. Staff members attended the National Association of Dairy Regulatory Officials Conference in Madison, Wisconsin. Staff members also attended dairy farm inspection and sanitation course in Helena, Montana, an in-house dairy marketing and sanitation auditing training course. Also, staff members attended the Nevada Environmental Health Association Nevada Food Safety and Task Force Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. Inspection staff conducted 11 re-inspections, 22 dairy farm inspections, and 23 re-inspections. 13 pasteurization equipment testing and sealing tests were conducted. 14 warning and compliance notifications were issued. 2 complaints were received and investigated. 1 single service facility inspection was inspected by inspectors. They collected 121 milk samples, 8 bulk milk hauler sampler weighers, 3 plant farm ratings, and 11 milk tin truck inspections. Audit reviews have yielded 1,986 in remittances and due to late fees of $932.28 collected. The dairy distribution program currently has 248 licensee accounts. The dairy outreach program has participated in 1 educational event with Melissa the cow. Sorry, it was just a lot of reading and I wanted to get all those points out there. Give them questions for you.
In chat defense, I may or may not have drafted this for you.
It's for you.
Sounds familiar. Next time, it's gonna be like new.
God wrote this.
They did. They promised to help me out on the first one because my first week there, they wanted this, and I'm sure if I can get it to them.
Does the board have any questions for Chad? You're off the hook for a little bit.
I apologize, I got a stupid phone call that I tried to get out of it, and they kept insisting I finish it. They still got lots of coyote traffic.
Like I said, I've got 3 coming, hopefully. 2 more, a few more. So
Did I understood though that they're likely turnover? We coming and going by that.
Yeah, the one we had one recently leave, and hopefully we can get that one filled fairly quick. And like I said, one in Fallon, we were going to start interviewing for that within the next 2 weeks.
There's one up here that's open right now. So if you know anybody, you can steer that way or think it.
Well, that's about like hiring a trapper and hiring a sheep herder. So, well, I guess probably the sheep are a little better off because we can get out of the country. I don't know if anybody out of the country wants to come travel.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
So Bernard Peterson, Bernard, Chad, welcome to the team. You got the full plate, and from the report that was put together by you and Doug, it's evident that the livestock division has a tremendous amount of work to do. And lots of that. So welcome to the industry and welcome to the NEA team.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully, next time my nerves won't be quite as.
Yeah, Chad, also, welcome. What, Starling Control, do you have somebody on board for
That with, so I'll let Doug, but that is with the park.
Yep.
So USA Wildlife Services usually operates that. We do have funding through the dairy program where we can assist producers with having it done. This year we didn't have any calls this year for starting.
this past season?
Yeah, this past February.
It seems to me I'm seeing a lot of starlings now, I think we're in
Okay, yeah, so, I mean, that's, in the past, they've worked through, Mark Ono's team through Wildlife Services. But then we do have, for dairy specific, we have funding where we can assist on that as well. So if they're coming in, I know usually it seems like February, they used to get hit hard and we didn't get any reports this year or nothing.
Right.
Of
Yeah, we
significance.
They're underwater.
Yeah, they're rain slickers.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thanks a lot, Chad. I appreciate it. We'll move to agenda item number 8, food and nutrition. Or food and nutrition. Food and Patricia. Sorry about that. You're out there. Can you hear me?
Food, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Division of Food and Nutrition, the best division because we help feed hungry people.
Yes.
So I'll just hit the high points since you've had these and you have a lot of numbers. Probably the number one item pending matters of significance. AB 319 was an assembly bill that went through the legislature this year that was put forth by an assemblywoman to continue universal free school meals is basically what the bill was about. It was an appropriation of about $43 million to continue it through school year 24-25. And although it passed both houses, it was vetoed by the governor. So as you've probably seen, if you've read through our board report, you'll see in school nutrition further down, we are funding universal free school meals right now, only for school year 23-24. Our funding cliff for this with state ARPA ends June 30, 2024. Our partnership activities have remained the same. This is ongoing participation that we do with the Department of Health and Human Services, which is why it's always on here. Moving on to program updates. Brooke did also mention our report with numbers. So food distribution area is first. The Emergency Food Assistance Program, which we refer to as TFAP, is our annual federal feeding program. It's a household, or what we used to refer to as commodities program. You can see all of the months of the fiscal year that food was distributed for household numbers from Food Bank of Northern Nevada in Sparks and 3 Square Food Bank in Las Vegas. Moving on, our Senior Nutrition and Wellness Program. It used to be the Commodity Supplemental Food Program. This is one for seniors. Served a monthly average of about 5,801 seniors between July and June of 23. And it provides a monthly food package, which is commodities or household food to eligible seniors 60 years of age and older. And this is one of the programs that Brooke mentioned earlier in her presentation. And we agree with her. We are also working with our federal liaison, our Western region at USDA, to try and do something about annual certification. So we also hear that feedback and are working to try and get that changed. Moving on down, Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. It's going on right now. It's coming to an end in Vegas, and we'll have probably maybe another month in Northern Nevada. We did receive federal ARPA funding for this program that allowed us to raised our coupon booklets that go to each senior from $45 last year to $50 this year. So not only is that more purchasing power for our eligible seniors, but it also is more purchasing power that goes to our state producers at the farmers market, which is really important. We have a couple of state ARPA funded grants. One is called the Nevada Community Food Access Round 1, and the second Round 2. The first one was 500,000. The second was about 6 million. We're in the process of spending down those grants. We're just about finished with Round 1, and all of our sub-awardees have started spending their grants with the new fiscal year in Round 2. Home Feeds Nevada, one of our favorite programs. Thank you, Brooke, for the plug. I know Woody's favorite program in food and nutrition. We're doing really well. This report goes through the end of state fiscal year 23. So as of the reporting time for this, we had spent $827,000 is what we had purchased from local producers in the state. It's over that number by now. We're at $1 million at this point. And at that time that we did our report, we have 18 small and medium producers that are participating in the program. And we had hired our contract program manager, Tanner Lewis, who is doing outreach across the state. He's already been meeting and visiting farms, headed to a region near you very soon. The capital improvement project at our northern warehouse in Reno, I actually have another update on that just came in this week that is even better than this one. We're currently using one of our freezer boxes, and they just have a couple of tasks to complete. All of our freezers will be completed tomorrow. So we're really excited about that. So all of our freezer and cooler boxes will be done by tomorrow, and we will be able to use them in full with temperatures going up. They are still working on the second phase of the project, which is the installation of the generator. They've gotten the concrete pads in. That still has a ways to go. They're projecting that will not be completed until February of 2024, but we'll keep you updated on that. Community nutrition, which is our child and adult care food program and summer food service program that we have. We are going full force on our outreach expansion initiative, where we received state ARPA sub-grants from the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services. We have filled both of our contract positions now. We have been developing training. We've developed and printed materials, and we are putting our outreach project plan together right now so that we can start doing outreach presentations with the goal of increasing and expanding participation in the program by licensed early child care centers across the state. And we're working very close with welfare on that. We have a management evaluation coming up in our southern office for both of these programs. That's what is considered the state agency's compliance program that is conducted by both Western Region office staff from USDA. We also have national office staff coming in from USDA. We'll have about 8 folks on site in the Vegas office the week of 9/11. And then the next 2 bullets give you an idea of our meals served by both of our programs and the number of sponsors, and also the compliance reviews that we've completed this state fiscal year. And then everything is starting all over again. So right now we're starting to receive annual applications from program sponsors and operators for the child and adult care food programs. So we're working on getting all of those approved. School nutrition. This is our report on our universal free school meals. To date, we've used $46,571,330.6 on National School Lunch and School Breakfast. And the numbers are 10,765,639 lunches and 4,454,051 breakfasts. And that's for school year 22-23. So we're just starting the new school year. So in our next board meeting, we'll have that first quarter report on our universal free school meals. That will be upcoming for school year 23-24. And if you have any questions, it just so happens that our brand new Deputy Administrator, Brittany Malley, is standing by in the Sparks conference room. So kudos to her for her promotion. We're very excited to have her. So we have 57 million and change for school year 23-24 that we'll be using to continue funding universal free school meals for this particular school year. We also are working with school food authorities that run these programs in the school districts and schools that are on our NSLP program to remind them that they need to continue encouraging parents to complete the free and reduced lunch applications. Those are really important to determine eligibility. And with this funding ending, that is considered a funding cliff. And so we will only have federal funding left. Brittany and her team are continuing to bring on as many school food authorities and schools for the community eligibility provision, which provides free school meals under that federal provision. But we are working very diligently because a lot of schools don't understand during universal free school meals that parents need to complete eligibility applications. So we are pushing that on every monthly school nutrition forum that we have and reminding them about that. Below that, you can see the program data for school nutrition, which with the number of meals served in the area of lunches, breakfast, snacks, milks, and their compliance reviews that they've conducted. And that is our report.
Thank you, Patricia. Appreciate it. Got a few things going on in your department for sure. Any board members have any questions or comments?
I do. Patricia, I was curious, how many people are on your team under the Division of Food and Nutrition?
Oh, goodness gracious. That's a great question. Approximately 32. That's across all program areas.
That is so cool. You guys, my hat's off to you guys because I see the food come in and come out and it's really remarkable. So thank you guys all for what you guys do. I do have a question. So the universal food, the universal free school meals, is that available to all schools or just Title I schools? Is universal because it's all schools?
So we call it universal primarily because all of the meals are free. That program is only available to schools that operate the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program, the two federal programs that we have oversight for through USDA.
Okay. And you said there was a slight hiccup with the parents. The parents aren't providing the proper documentation or whatever to get those kids their stuff, or what's the
So the way that student participation is done for those federal feeding programs, there are free meals, there are reduced meals, and there are paid meals. Paid meals means that the student's family pays that full price, whatever is set for the meal that they get at school if they choose to buy a meal at school. Reduced means that a portion of that meal is reimbursed through federal funds from USDA, and then a portion of it is paid by the student's family. A free meal means that the full meal is counted and claimed and reimbursed with federal funds. And these are all funds that we get under USDA for these. To determine eligibility, there's a variety of ways. Nevada is a direct certification state. And so we use other programs such as TANF, SNAP, WIC. They're automatically eligible for these school meals with those programs. Medicaid also is part of the direct cert matching that make them eligible. And then aside from those programs, if a family is not on any of those programs, they can complete an eligibility application for their household, and in that way get qualified for these meals. And it also may qualify them for another federal program that I mentioned that they're not already qualified for. And so it's just a matter of having families ensure that they complete these applications just in case to see that they may be able to qualify. What happened during the pandemic, Brooke, is that we had a number of years where there were universal free school meals because USDA had federal feeding programs like summer food service program that was operated where eligibility did not matter at all. We're now moving back to normal operations. And so Nevada as a state opted to have universal free school meals for this school year and last school year by paying for this with state ARPA. This upcoming school year of 24-25, all of that goes away and we're truly back to normal operations. And to qualify for year 24-25, we need parents who complete those eligibility applications, and the schools are a big part of that and encouraging them to do that. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just signed an MOA with the CCSD, which I didn't realize this before, but it's incredibly hard to have an MOA with the CCSD. We have community markets that are free inside of school locations. So we have a really strong partnership. So if there's anything that I can help with, any advocacy or any type of system to put into place where they are following up, you know, because sometimes the families are falling through the cracks. So even I'll share this information with our case managers that are on site at the schools, and we can start asking those families if they are and have submitted for that. And I have a meeting with Jara and the chief of staff and Brad Keating at CCSD next week. And so I will talk to them about this and see how we can possibly help. Because again, sometimes it's the parents that, you know, the children need the parents to advocate. But if the parents aren't taking the time to give those forms out, then the kids suffer. So anything I can do to help, and I'll look into this as well. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Brooke. I appreciate it.
And then one last thing. So the Nevada Community Food Access Grant, round 2, what does that only come through? Do organizations only get to help with that if they're one of your 2 entities that you guys provide funds to?
No. So there are, I don't know the exact number of sub-awardees we have off the top of my head. I think it's somewhere around 10 or 15. Okay. They're a very diverse group of sub-awardees across the state, small, medium, large, doing all kinds of different things. We really focus on infrastructure for that grant, and we did a competitive RFA and had a competitive evaluation committee that reviewed proposals. And we awarded as many as we could to get funding out there for a variety of different organizations, and it focused on rural and underserved areas and infrastructure.
Love that. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the questions.
So Brooke, I am just going to say one more time, anytime you guys are engaging with these parents in these schools, have them fill out that paperwork. It's going to be critical. We've bridged the gap for this school year at NDA, but we will not have that money next year. We carried it over from last year.
Unless they fill out the form, correct?
They have to fill out the forms. It'll be additional. It will not be universal. Yeah. They must fill out the forms. So in August of next year, we can continue to feed those kids.
So it's a use it or lose it type situation. If the state doesn't believe that the need is there, we won't be able to do that.
Because we're in a biennium, there is no money from the state for next year. It will not be there. It will be USDA money that we will get based on the parents filling that out. Okay. They must. So when you guys are talking about your marketplaces in those schools, you've got to tell those parents, and you've got to send that paperwork home or little reminders and help us with that. Yeah. You must qualify.
We have the entire leadership team of CCSD coming in September 6th, so that will be first on the agenda. So we'll make sure, and I'll email you guys an update, and I'll include you, Patricia, as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. I sometimes forget that we are in Southern Nevada, and so, or Nevada. So definitely, I'll reach out to the school district in the north too. All.
Each county has their own.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Patricia. I know you're busy.
No, Not at all.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 9, measurements and standards.
All right, for the record, Bill Strachewski, Administrator. Much like Patricia, since you have a report in your packet, I'm just going to add some updates and some additional context, and then take questions as they come. Under pending matters of significance, it should, livestock scale inspection should be in bold as well. To say that this has been a challenging season is not doing it justice. And equipment breaks and there are manpower issues, but I failed with the communication part, and I'm not going to say it any differently than that. But I have begun discussions with staff on how to modernize and improve the way that we communicate and push messages out to the ranchers in the industry. Relied on the old procedures, and those did not work, certainly under these circumstances. Now, I will also say, and going to tap on the table, we've had a really good month. We've had 2 teams out in the field, and they are working like crazy. They've been successful. We have been more responsive and more proactive with customers. So I want to at least shine a light on the inspectors who have been out just working like crazy to get this completed, at least as timely as it can be now. I'll have more to say about this a little bit later, but we will be hosting a conference next month, and as part of that, there will be a demonstration given that will be guided by a representative from Tesla and by 2 EV test measure companies on both AC testing, which everyone is pretty comfortable with at this point, but also DC testing. So, and again, just very briefly, DC testing is a quick charge and involves a tremendous amount of power, and the testers on the market now are just not able to really handle that in a normal setting. The way it's done now is that there is a method used called man in the middle, where you connect the test measuring unit to a charger, and then you have to then attach that to a vehicle and charge it. And if you think about, questions like when you charge your phone, right? It charges very fast at the beginning, but as it gets more charged, it's slower. Okay, so you have a vehicle. Now you're driving around an EV vehicle that has a quarter charge, 3/4 charge, whatever. But so this is going to be a really informative for our folks, as well as spotlighting some new instrumentation that might be available and might save us having to purchase EV vehicles just to do this sort of testing. And I mentioned just the legislature and the governor were generous to us in our budget. Now we're trying to get things purchased from our enhancements, and I was at our break, I was speaking to Board Member Peterson, and one of the issues that we have is that we want to purchase vehicles. We can't get our hands on vehicles, and so that's an ongoing issue. And some of our more unique equipment, there aren't many manufacturers for that, and they know the way that the state operates. And if we need to get 3 quotes, only one of those companies that give us quotes is going to get that business. And so, there's not a lot of urgency for them, but we're going to hit this as hard as we can, because we've got stuff that we need to replace. A little bit on division staffing. Our last probationary employee in the Las Vegas office has been approved to get his CDL training, which is the last step that he needs. We're working with fiscal on the payment options for that. So then he'll take his class, and I hope to tell you at the December meeting that he's been progressed, and everybody's at least at an Inspector 2 position. In the Sparks office, our only issue really is the transition that was made this summer from Success Factors to NEATS, and we have one open position, and getting that paperwork into NEATS so that we can actually fill it has been an issue. But as of yesterday, we have all that posted, both as an Inspector 2 and the underfill as an Inspector 1. And actually the Inspector 1 that has been posted for a week or so already has candidates. So hopefully that'll be good. The Elko office went from being unstaffed to being fully staffed. And, both of these employees have been among those who have been working exceptionally hard on scales so far. They're still getting settled in, but we're optimistic about their success. We still have one outstanding LCB file, and I just need to turn my attention to it when this upcoming conference is done next month. Couple of issues. Well, I'll get to that now. Nevada will be hosting the Western Weights and Measures Association annual meeting, and that'll be from September 17th to 21st. It's the first time that we have hosted it since 2007, and we will be at the Nugget in Sparks. You've heard both myself and my predecessor, Cadence Matievich, talk about the National Conference on Weights and Measures, and so the Western Association meeting is the beginning of that whole cycle that culminates in the July meeting, where votes are taken and new regulation. New additions to the handbooks are adopted. I will put it that way. And among the highlights at the Western meeting, we have National Institute on Standards and Technology will be giving a technical session on everybody takes grill size LPG bottles for granted, right? They're getting 20 gallons. No reason to take that for granted. There was a national survey done, and we're going to be discussing that and steps that states can then take beyond that. They will also be giving a technical session on handling evidence, search and seizure, etc. I've mentioned the EV demonstration, and there'll also be a demonstration of a new mass flow meter for testing propane tanks, which would be great because right now we have to drag a trailer with a propane tank out with us, and that would be a great step forward. Also, we're able to put on our schedule the very busy Director Goycochea to say a few words. We're looking forward to that. Petroleum technology, new petroleum chemist started in July, and this was a real bonus for me because he actually predated me in that position. That was 15 years ago, and the position hasn't changed, but it has evolved. But in terms of, I'm not training him from ground level. I'm, just letting him know what has changed, and that's been a great help. Valerie, I'm not sure if you've spoken to him yet, but okay, I'll remind him to reach out to you. And sort of to that end, we've been very involved with ASTM for these years. And when he was in this position the first time, and when I took over for him, we were sort of lone wolves. And, you have to kind of break through the hard shell to figure out how ASTM works. Well, since then, I have, really put together a great network of industry and state and federal regulator colleagues. And, so in December, I plan to take him, to go with him to the next meeting so that I can get him into that group, and then I will step away. But, I think some of the value of all that networking could be seen, and they gave us a lot of help with the diesel filters. Yeah. That was really helpful. Now I will end by mentioning the F word, but I'm going to do it, I think, in a positive way. I know that the director gets these daily emails also. I don't know if you ever open them, but I check them every day and look for wildfires in California, and I check CAL FIRE and PG&E, and wildfires in Nevada are obviously of great importance to the agricultural industry, to the petroleum industry. The wildfires, particularly in Northern California, are the same, because about 5 years ago, PG&E took to issuing what they call PSPSs, which are public safety power shutdowns. And why those are important is that Cisco Grove, part of the way up towards Donner Summit, is a pumping station, because we have to pump that fuel over the summit. And if they shut that down or reduce the electricity, then that can be an issue in Northern Nevada. To that end, and so this came about, in the, I'll say 5 years that Cadence and myself and two of our colleagues with the Governor's Office of Energy started having meetings. Now, the Office of Energy really is who controls Emergency Support Function 12, but they just aren't really familiar with liquid fuels. So we offered our support to them. I am now the last person standing. And so last week I held a meeting with Vernon, the new petroleum chemist, and with a woman who is 5 months on the job over at GOE. And I introduced them to the fuel disruption plan that we made that just sort of parallels and runs parallel to the DEM's larger plan, about roles and how to assess the risks and, where the pipeline is on its cycle, et cetera. And it was a really fruitful meeting, I think. And, hopefully they get a quiet ear and we don't have to do anything with it. Weights and measures, I guess, oh yes, and one last thing on weights and measures. Fiscal Services had worked hard on setting up a contract with Goodyear. I will just mention that during the livestock program, Weights and Measures have had cause to put that to really good use. And the results have so far been pretty good. Appreciate it. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
On the electrical charging station. So this big thing you got in September, are you guys going to be talking about how you're going to approach regulations with that? Because there's no regulations in that. In the state of Nevada, do we have to wait for federal stuff? Or does it take our politicians to say something to start regulation, or do we start the process of that?
So there are some regulations
right.
That were adopted by NCWM last year. But we as a state are currently we have a letter exempting us from that. Because we're trying to do our internal testing to figure out how we want to set it up, right? How we want to, how we access them. The testing itself is pretty straightforward. What the time and effort outlay is, so we know how to set the fee. There's another issue in as regards NCWM. There are what are called NTEP devices, which are nationally certified, right? And, a typical scale, a grocery scale, a jewelry scale. where they have a certificate and everybody understands that. EV testers do not. There's this weird exemption for what are called one-off devices. And right now they consider them, the industry wants to consider those one-off devices.
Is the industry, causing the slow?
Not so much, but California has done a lot of work. New York has done a fair amount of work. Everyone else, certainly regionally, is in the same boat that we are. Trying to figure out how really to regulate it, but it will come from us.
Right, yeah. Okay. It's coming,
It is, and we are behind. It is much like
if you like me out there pumping fuel and saying, whatever my meter says, that's what you get.
Well, that's right. And fuel pumps are certified devices. It's a little bit, say about 15 years ago or so when biodiesel really hit the market. And that was the same thing. Industry was so far ahead of regulation. And so that's what we're chasing right now.
I think what Bill said is key, though, and just keep that in mind. California and New York are the only two doing it. And so we've had how many conversations?
Right.
We got to get it right.
Yeah, you don't want
Well, but I would say this as well, JJ, that the state of Nevada was the 3rd or 5th state to legalize recreational marijuana, and let the first state sort of take the lumps on it, and
then we'll perfect it.
That's right.
We're talking Tesla and weed. Thanks, Bill.
Go ahead. Bernard Peterson for the record. Bill, I got a couple questions for you that evacuate measures on scales. Do you have any idea how many livestock commodity truck scales there are on the state of Nevada? Actual number. And
livestock truck scales.
Yeah, like for weighing a semi.
Certified, right?
Certified truck scales for weighing a semi pulling.
I don't.
Okay, so and we're presently on an annual renewal and certification.
Correct.
Okay. But you don't know.
Certainly for the ranch scales, if you're talking about the truck scales, I would have to check that. Okay. I suspect it's annual as well.
And presently, do you have any idea how many yet need to be certified in the state, livestock and truck scales? Because all those truck scales I'm talking about, they're used by somebody, him or me or him. We have one, but all the ones that are actually locally in our area, they're used by all the states.
Right. So let me chime in real quick. Certified scales, right? Is that what you're asking?
That's correct.
Right. Livestock.
Yeah.
Public scales, all that.
Public scales.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, Bird, but Director, I'd like to cheer for the record. And I think one area you might be going on, packers and stockyards, you cannot sell your livestock unless that scale has been done within the last 8 months. And I'll be honest, I never thought about this till you said it. And it's my fault, my bad. Some of these ranches don't have livestock scales. They weigh light truck, they load the truck, and then they sell those calves based on what that truck weighed.
Yes.
And some of these contracts are written that way, weigh on the truck.
Yes.
So we're gonna have to dig into that. It never even crossed my mind.
And that was part of my question is, are we currently have all of those scales that are available for trade certified? Because I know we've had trouble getting it. We are in the same position where we may be out of certification when it comes to shipping.
With your truck scales for your hay.
Yeah.
You should have, White Pine County was hit this week and next, so you should have your livestock scales. They might be.
We're there when I left.
Okay.
I will look into those numbers. I mean, we do the large truck highway scales, but I don't know that we do them on a specific schedule with any sensitivity to livestock, and maybe that's a mistake. And I'll get you a number of what's outstanding.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Definitely. I mean, one thing too, Bill. I mean, how many different devices are you certifying throughout the whole state of Nevada? Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands.
About 50,000.
So yes, and I understand what Board Chairman Bernard is saying is a schedule. You know, it was kind of that you guys have a scheduled process in which it's like bend in a fence, right?
But if
Start
some of
one
that
spin,
needs to be-
then you're all the way, then you're back to another one. So, and there's gas stations getting open, there's scales, public scales that are out there. So, yeah.
But if that needs to be wrapped in schedule wise, then we will work on that as well.
Any other questions or comments for Bill? Memoir measurement stand. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, that's it. I've got wheels turning.
Oh, that's not.
Agenda number 10.
We'll sleep in the night.
Plant health and compliance. Ashley, are you out there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. For the record, Ashley Jepson, Plant Health and Compliance Division Administrator. There's been a lot of topics pertaining to plants, so I'm going to pivot my presentation a little bit. As my colleague said, you have the reports before you, so I'm going to kind of do some updates on things that have come forward since our board report was presented to you, and then address some of the questions that I could hear throughout. Mr. Paris, I do apologize. Some of your discussion was a little bit muffled, so I'll do my best, but I'm happy to answer questions as well. To kind of start right now, our division, we do believe that we have filled our nursery vacancy in the Las Vegas office, which really takes the lead in our nursery program. So we're really excited for that. And I know industry will be eager to hear that as well. Hoping to have that person in that position in the next couple of weeks, but we've covered some ground. With that, we still have 5 vacancies. We've really struggled in getting our agriculturist 3 in the Elko Winnemucca area. That position continues to remain vacant. And Director Gokichia had asked me to speak on our Sagebrush Ecosystem Council position. And at this point in time, we did just go through the interview process, selected a candidate, and they declined due to the compensation schedule. So we're back at square one on that. This is a particular position where it really doesn't afford us to provide extensive training. We need somebody that knows industry to enter that role and really represent. So that's why it's been a particularly challenging one to fill. But we'll keep pushing through and hopefully find a good candidate with that. I want to jump into a couple bill updates from this last session. AB 162 was passed to really, the intent of that bill was to try to mitigate access to general homeowners, so untrained people, to neonicotinoids, and it specified a specific class of chemicals in the bill. Really where that came out is that the Department of Agriculture has to have a list of registrations from commercial agriculture producers so that they can go and buy this product. But outside of that and some other miscellaneous purposes, it can't be used by a general homeowner type situation. However, with how the bill was written, it is at the end of the day, it's a label revision. So we've been working with EPA on how best to work with pesticide manufacturers to make sure that this is carried through and that the applicator knows what the law is. So we're sending out messaging as we speak to those companies that they're going to have to be updating their labels. And we'll be continuing to push those notices out to retailers to make sure that we're following through to the best of our ability on the language of that bill. There's concern in that being that Nevada's law is stricter than federal, making sure there's no conflictions on those labels. We want to make sure that the users know how to read them and understand it, and that's always key. So we're trying to work through that piece and make sure that happens and the intent of the bill is met. Staying on that line, Senate Bill 159 also passed, and that requires the department to go through the administrative rulemaking process to issue we'll call it provisional license that allows for folks to operate in a training capacity with direct supervision. And direct means that their licensed individual is not seeing what they're doing. That would be immediate. So with that, we had reassurance from the bill sponsor that safety would not be missed from the intent of that bill as we were looking at the regulations. So we're drafting language right now. We will be passing it through our director on those that we believe potentially could be doing that training capacity for direct. It doesn't allow it to be done on RUPs per the bill, but we also have significant concerns on classifications for aerial, for aquatics, for structural. So at this point in time, we're looking at removing that option from those groups and keeping it immediate, but we'll continue to draft it, work on our small business impact, and pass it down the line to make sure that everybody has a chance to look at that, speak, and make sure we're not missing anything from a public and environmental safety standpoint. And I want to just mention it's very specific in that whoever is operating in this training capacity, who they're operating under is responsible for them. So there's a lot of expectations there, and that's where we're really trying to lean on what the federal law says on those expectations, and it's fairly rigorous. So sorry for the lengthy discussion on that, but those are some pretty big things, you know. Public safety and environmental safety are key here. Jumping into, I want to talk through our noxious weeds program, and with some of the discussion today, I think it'll be beneficial if I give a little bit of an overview on how Deputy Administrator Brown and myself have tried to kind of shift that program a little bit over the last couple of years. In the past, it's really been education oriented, and education is critical, but if we're not doing the follow through on all levels, we're not hitting the mark on what we need to be doing in statute. And protecting Nevada land. So a couple of things that we've done in particular is shifted the structure in that program. We've been able to move a position into that program. We've also reclassed a position to allow to help in a more technical aspect. So we have four bodies in that. We have the program lead. We have a grant funded position that really helps with our subgrantees and our community weed management groups, and also does biocontrol releases and helps do our weed-free certification program. And we also have a key player in our NDOT team. So they're reviewing plans for some of those sites and what noxious weeds are present, what their mitigation plan is. So we're not continuing to move that. And we've really bolstered our regulatory steps. So now we kind of have a tiered system. Like, here's your education, here's what you need to do. We're here to help. No response on that, it goes to tier 1, and then it's basically, you know, if we don't get a plan by this date, we're going to have to take further action. And then tier 2 is where we're pursuing those fines and looking at means and looking at what authority we have to try to get these issues underway. So with that, we are exercising that authority in Elko County right now. We had a number of landowners not respond to some of our escalated activity. So we've been working with Elko County, we've been working with the Homeowners Association to try to get these issues addressed, and we're going to continue to do that. We've issued more regulatory letters, which doesn't sound like a win, but it is, and that we're actually following through with the teeth that we have to try to hold folks accountable to their land. So you see we've issued 151 regulatory letters, and as you're entering our lobby, you'll see a stack of them in the outgoing mail. And we're going to keep doing that. And we're following up on those locations. We're following up on the mapping and really being diligent to try to address these state issues. And I know one of the leading complaints is, and understandably so, is I'm treating mine, my neighbor's not. And sometimes that's public land and state lands and holding them accountable. And we have been working with the Forest Service to get some funds to help address some of those issues. We've received a $1 million award, which mostly will go out to the conservation districts to be boots on the ground. So part of our legwork there is looking at where these infestations that cross multiple jurisdictions, let's put some treatment dollars down, let's help private, let's help public, let's really implement some projects that are going to be effective to reducing our populations and protecting our lands. So that's some work we've really been hitting home at. We think that money is going to help. We think the restructuring is going to help, and our team has really been diligent. But with that, please contact us if you're continuing to see infestations, or use our EdMap system, because that is a really key tool that we're using to flag where these infestations are, especially the species, and what we can do to try to tackle it. I think that covers my noxious weed spiel. Jumping into a couple of other updates here. You do see in our entomology update, we have a report on our imported fire ant, and I just wanted to touch on that because I know for the nursery industry in particular, it's been a concern. We had 5 detections, I believe, last year of imported fire ant, and as you guys recall, that it provides a pretty nasty sting. It's not something we want. It's been found in parks. It's most often coming from California in areas that aren't quarantined. So we've been escalating this on the state and federal level to try to get some more traction on that. But with that, I wanted to report, we did survey those locations this year and we had 0 detections. So it can be difficult for that species to establish, but it doesn't mean it can't change. So we're keeping our monitoring program, and we'll keep you guys apprised on that. And we still want to keep the feet to the fire on California and the feds to make sure that we're staying diligent on this program, because we certainly don't want it here. Okay. I wanted to touch on the oh so well-known topic of Mormon crickets and grasshopper program. You've probably seen our FAQ that's gone out. It's trying to provide some clarifying information on the program that we have under the federal agreement that we work under, and where we have some limitations. So at this point in time, our money comes from plant protection quarantine with USDA, and that money, the grasshopper and cricket program, is specific to rangelands. So that's one of the areas we have challenges. We try to get those surveys in really early. We lean on our industry to notify us when they're finding these attacks, so we can get the reports in to the feds. We can apply to try to get some aerial treatment in those larger sectors and get treatment and try to mitigate its spread onto private lands. There can be cost share with private lands as well, but beyond that, the federal program is limited. But we hear industry, and Director Gotichia has had a number of conversations at different levels, talking through what the challenges are and what our limitations are and what the needs are and potential future planning. So there's a lot of discussions and I think movement on what our program could look like for the next year, and we'll keep you apprised. Right now, our team is still surveying, trying to identify where. Right now it's egg laying, so we're surveying where eggs are being laid so we can hit the ground running and get out there early in the season, see if that's where they're hatching, and put our efforts forward right when they're hatching, because that's when a lot of the pesticides are particularly effective. And with that, some of you have probably seen some comments and potential changes to the sage grouse from BLM, and trying to minimize some of the tools available for treating Mormon crickets. One of them, the justification was it's consumable for sage grouse, and they didn't want to limit that. But there's more and more comments coming forward of how some of the tools with the pesticides actually target that species and don't hit some of the other critical consumed insects for sage grouse. So just wanted to provide some update on that. Our department has provided comment on it, as well as other Western states, and there's more comment going. So hopefully we'll see some good traction in that. Okay. In terms of hemp, we've run into a few hiccups this year. We're seeing, as you all know, we've seen some decline in that industry, and one of the issues we're seeing in particular is, folks that have leased out their land, and to other people that are taking the lead on it. They're not once they're deciding to no longer grow, they're not roguing out those plants. So we're seeing old fields, and we're checking on those fields that just have hemp or marijuana growing. So this is something we've had to be more aggressive on. And we're probably going to continue to see. We've been diligent in providing the communication. It's in the regulations that once they're out of production, they need to be having a response plan to remove those plants. But I think it's going to be an ongoing issue, so just wanted to flag it. Okay, the last thing, kind of an exciting update for our entomology program and pest mitigation. We're trying to really bolster our Don't Move Firewood campaign. That's where a lot of harmful insects are being passed along. So one of the things we're trying to do is work with some of the campgrounds and putting up some of the Don't Move Firewood campaigns and flags for species in particular that we're concerned about. And with that, we're also trying to get on the planning ground for some of the campsite reservation online systems where that information is there and it's default response when people make reservations where they have that, they know the expectation, and hopefully we're going to see some more compliance. I also just wanted to conclude with a big thank you to Marty Paskett in Eureka County. He was gracious enough to let us come to his farm and take some footage of some of his conservation practices with ongoing drought issues. We really want to showcase what folks are doing and resources that are available in the community. So there will be some footage that'll come out on showcasing that, along with just him telling his story. So appreciate his time, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it. You got a lot of moving pieces out there. More crickets, you name it. A lot of different stuff, but we appreciate what you and your staff are doing. I have one quick question on AB 184. Do you guys foresee what type of an impact as far as staffing on that unit? What is it going to create, or is it just too new to know?
Sorry, for the record, Ashley Jepson. We did have a fiscal note on that bill as it initially stood. There were changes that came underway, and that was where that, you guys just register producers. They try to reduce the workload to that capacity. So we're doing what we can with outreach and education and the existing authority that we have. I think we can manage, but with that, as I've told Director Gokichias, if we see more hiccups with the verbiage or the EPA process, we're going to make sure we're documenting everything we're going through to implement the bill. The challenges that we're running into in being successful in implementation, and if need be, we will circle back with the legislators on those specific issues in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. I appreciate it. Any other board members have comments or questions?
Yes, Paul, no. For the record, Ashley, just had a question on AB 162. Is there a time frame on any of the regulations that need to be developed? I know that that ban is supposedly takes effect January 1st, but we just are looking for a little bit of information in the nursery industry as to what we can sell and what kind of products and how it's actually going to be regulated.
Jepson, thank you, Mr. No. I appreciate that comment. Yeah, the implementation date that they move forward with January 1, we had expressed some concern that this might be challenging to meet. So with that, we're trying to be aggressive in our messaging. We had to tackle that with EPA first, and we've had a number of conversations, but I believe messaging either went out yesterday or will be on Monday to manufacturers. And we are drafting messaging now that will go out to retailers. So more specific on that, you'll have to know the bottom line, you'll have to know the active ingredients to the products you're selling. And you'd have to ask for those specific products if they're a commercial ag producer. And if they have that certificate from us in order to sell it. That's the limiting factor on retailers that it's placed. We're just going to be hitting home the education. We know that this is going to be a significant transition. And so really, we just want to give you guys a heads up on this is the process you can go through. This is what to look for. This is what to ask. And as it's written, this is how we think you can be successful. But we're here to work with you, and we want you to be successful because we know it's a huge transition.
I appreciate that a lot. But the other question is, in reading through it, my understanding in that bill is that retailers right now are not restricted from selling those products. The restriction is for the use of those products. Is that correct?
Which changed, it is specific to use, but to try to help with making sure that is successful, we'll be outreaching to the retailers on, hey, FYI, this is the requirement of this bill. These are the only people that can use it. So you're aware of the people that it should be sold to. But to your point, yes, it is the applicator that is held accountable, and it's the department that's held accountable to making sure we're issuing that registration so commercial ag producers can access it. So one of the concerns that really came up during that bill from farmers is I want to be able to access products, because the initial intent was to just get it off the shelves in general areas that it could be purchased by homeowners. And that transitioned to this certificate so they can still widely get it, but it needs to be provided to try and get it. But to your point, it is worded for the user.
Also, one other question. And that is how do you about the label changes in notifying the manufacturers and changing their labels? Most of those, well, in fact, all of them that I know of are not within the state of Nevada. They print labels nationally. How do other states deal with that have the ban in place already? They are not likely to change labels on their products for specific states. They're going to have to change them for the entire country.
For the record, Ashley Jepson, I appreciate you bringing out that question. So this is something that we spoke directly with EPA on. So what California has done on the labels is it will specify when they change the label, they'll have to specify in each section, depending on the use that would then be restricted. If being applied in California, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And they'll have to do the same thing for Nevada. So they're going to have to update their label to list in those sections and state what's specific to Nevada. The other option that you know the program manager and I talked about that we would accept is if they're saying, hey, if you're applying this in Nevada, you need to comply with this bill and just link the bill. So either way, it would be ideal if they're going line by line and they're specifying that like most did in California. But at this point, with the tight deadline, we would accept either.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have any other conversations on it too. Again, I just want to echo that we're here to help you guys along. We want to make sure that those two tools are available, but also that we're meeting the requirements of the bill. So we're here for you, and please don't hesitate to reach out.
No, we definitely appreciate it. I appreciate everything you've been able to do for us. We're glad to keep in contact whenever you seem to be very helpful to the whole industry. So we look forward to finding out how the regulations are going to go, how the implementation is going to go, and then that way we can make the changes wherever necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ashley. Go ahead. Bernard, you had a question? No. Oh, Jim.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, Ashley, thank you for that work you're doing. How far north do the fire ants occur?
They've all been in the south. It's too cold in the north. So at this point in time, they've all been in southern Nevada parks. Sorry, I don't know specifically. I think they've all been in Clark County.
Okay, thank you.
So for those in the room, because it's a little hard to hear, Ashley, going back to that neonic The way that ended up being crafted, those of you that are familiar with how a ag exemption on sales tax works, and you fill that form out and you give it to your retailer, that is the same process that is going to be happening. So Paul's Nurseries will have that. And if Val is an agricultural producer, she will fill that form out just like you would for your sales tax. We would provide that form that goes to that nursery, and you are affirming that you are an agricultural operation, commercial agricultural operation. Therefore, you can buy those products and apply those products. That is how that is envisioned to work. And as Ashley said, the EPA is going to have to drive the changing of those labels. So in California, you do this, in Nevada, you do this, and those labels will have to be changed. If they're not changed, they won't be sold in the state of Nevada. And that's just the way it is with the action the legislature took.
That more on the labels.
Longer label.
Longer. Like 7 pages. Hard glasses.
That's it.
Any other questions for Ashley? Thank you so much, Ashley. I appreciate what you and your team are doing. Awesome. Kudos to the new regulations you guys got to work out. And so we're moving right along to agenda item number 11, public comment. We have some in Elko, and then we'll reach out virtually. So go ahead. So your hand.
You know, to fulfill my role as a phone on the side of the director, both present and past,
he's good at it.
I'd like to address what the function of the board. Collectively, we have people on this board who their knowledge and experience in the different areas that they represent are important to agriculture in general. And I know the directors in the past and present disagree with me on the role of the board. I think statutorily, in my opinion, this board has the responsibility to vote on all rule changes. Any regulation change should be going through the approval of this board. And there's, like I say, there's a lot of discussion back and forth as to where that is, especially on specific areas, you know, within the statutes. But I think this board, you know, if you've got this knowledge, you've got this experience, I think this board should be voting on every regulatory change. And I would encourage the board to push that ability and responsibility in the future. There's a lot of things that are at the discretion of the director. This is not a comment on any director and any other function in the past or present. But I think this board, the reason for having this is to, you know, supply that knowledge, that experience to those regulations that are being proposed. Thank you. I would silent for the record.
Thank you. Any other any public comment? All right, we'll go out there virtual. Anything in Sparks? Anything in Las Vegas?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else out there virtually? Any other public comment?
I have a public comment. Can you hear me? It's Leanna.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Leanna. Leanna, last name?
Leanna Carey, Progressive Rancher Magazine, and president of the new 501c3 Lahontan Valley Cattle Women. And I am a board member on Churchill County Farm Bureau. And I want to put a giant thank you out there to Woody for setting the conversation of ag on an upturn across Nevada. And it's an honor to work with Woody and the Department of Ag. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanna, for those comments. Any other comments, public comments out there? Does someone want to make a motion to item number 11 to adjourn?
So moved.
There's one motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. So moved. We're going to adjourn. Thank you very much for everybody's time and being here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Remind you guys, those of you that travel, make sure you sign your form and leave it for Raleigh.
You want to do a physical report?
No, you're.